Bismillah and Assalamualaikum to all my beloved Form 5 students. Welcome back to week 6 of your online lesson. Today we are going to look at page 11 of your textbook. So let me just remove my face from here. Okay, and here we are. Relative clause, grammar. Okay, what is relative clause? There are a lot of notes here. It's very long and it can be very complicated and confusing. So I will just pick and choose a few things to explain to you. And maybe I will have to use a little bit more bahasa Melayu today because I don't want you to not understand my explanation to you. So I will try. Bismillah. Okay, so apa dia relative clause? Okay, so we have this sentence, this example here. Oh wait, the color is wrong. Okay, this example. Wow, that is a very ugly arrow. The girl who I look after during the day is adopted. Ada dua pilihan kat sini, who or that, sebab dua-dua ni boleh bertukar ganti ya. The girl who I look after during the day is adopted. So this part is the relative clause. Relative clause, because if you just read the little girl is adopted, the sentence is already complete. Ayat ni dah lengkap. The little girl is adopted. Budak kecil tu, budak perempuan kecil tu ialah anak angkat, is adopted. But you use the relative clause, it explains the subject. Subject dia adalah little girl. Little girl ni you give more details about the little girl. Apa dia yang kamu boleh cerita tentang little girl? The little girl who I look after during the day. Budak yang saya jaga semasa siang hari itu. Okay, so for little girl, for example, untuk orang kita gunakan who ataupun that. Kalau untuk laundry, tempat, ini is a thing, by the way, the laundry. Which or that is in the basket is filthy. Laundry, baju yang nak basuh lah, laundry. That's the place. We're talking about place, right? So we use where, the place where my father met my stepmother. That is the reason. Sebab why? Sebab mengapa? Joe is grumbling. Remember grumbling? Grumbling is merungut. That was the time. Masa. Kita gunakan when. When I had an argument with my brother. Pergaduhan, argument. And finally, this is the woman. Woman, orang. Whose daughter. Whose daughter. So, whose nak menunjukkan siapa punya. Kepunyaan. Whose daughter. Wanita yang anak dia. Whose daughter does our housework. So anak kepada perempuan tu. So we use whose. So these are the words that we use to write a relative clause. Again, apa dia fungsi relative clause ni? Adalah memberi maklumat tambahan tentang subjek ayat tu. Okay, tentang benda yang kita nak cakap lah dalam ayat tu. Okay, I hope that is clear. Relative clause name, by the way, should be things that you have already learned in primary school. Masa kamu nak jawab UPSR dulu, saya rasa mesti cikgu pernah ajar. The boy who wears a blue shirt, the girl who sits behind me. Okay, if you remember that. Okay, cuma yang ni adalah kita bawa dia pergi ke level yang lebih tinggi sedikit sahaja lagi. So ayat dia lebih panjang macam contoh little girl tadi kan. Not just the little girl who wears a blue shirt, but little girl that I look after during the day. But the basic is the same. Okay, moving on. Here we have defining and non-defining relative clauses. Alamak, apa pula tu kan? Okay, so don't be afraid, don't be confused. I will try to make it as easy as I can. Let's just take a look at this example here. The chore which I hate the most is washing up. Okay. And this note here, when who, whom, that, and which are the object of a defining relative clause, they can be omitted. Omitted ni maksudnya boleh dibuang. Maksudnya dalam ayat seperti ini, the chore which I hate the most, kamu boleh buang ini, and the sentence is still correct. The chore I hate most is the washing up. Okay, tapinya kena terhad kepada yang ni sajalah, yang ada who, whom, that, which. Okay, contoh kalau kita guna who, the person I love the most. You could say the person who I love the most is my mother. You could also say the person I love the most is my mother. Tak perlu guna who. Another example here that we can take a look at. The men who I invited to get together are my uncles. Ataupun the men I invited to the get together are my uncles. Okay, so that is one thing. And then the second one here that we are going to look at. Okay, yang ni perbezaan dia dengan ayat di atas adalah kita letak comma kat sini antara relative clauses tu. And we are going to look at why we need to put a comma and what difference does it make. Molly, who often gossips, doesn't get along with her peers. Molly, who often gossips, doesn't get along with her peers. Okay, so this one here is quite complicated. Okay, so you could just say Molly doesn't get along with her peers. Molly doesn't get along. Dia tak apa baik sangat dengan dia punya peers. Or peers? Dia punya rakan sebaya dia. And this part is not kata, it gives extra information which we do not need in order to understand the meaning of the main clause. Okay, you could just read Molly doesn't get along with her peers. Who often gossips ni adalah maklumat tambahan yang tak diperlukan sangat pun. Kalau tak ada pun tak apa. So, for these ones, you can put a comma here. Comma kat sini. Comma kat sini. Molly, who often gossips, doesn't get along with her peers. And untuk ayat seperti ini yang ada comma ni kan, you have to use who. You cannot use that. Kalau tidak, ayat-ayat sebelum ni tadi kita boleh guna who, kita boleh guna that kan. Yang ni tak boleh guna that, boleh guna who sahaja. So how do you know when you can use only who? You look at the comma. Molly, who often gossips. You cannot say Molly that often gossips. Okay, and the last part today is prepositions in relative clauses. Prepositions, specifically we are going to look at two prepositions here, which is for dengan to. Yang ini boleh gunakan juga dalam ayat yang menggunakan relative clauses. Again, I'm going to just skip the notes and just show you the examples. His books about relationships for which he is famous sell very well. So, bila kamu menggunakan for which, dia jadi very formal. Formal. Baku lah. Rasmi. Okay, rasmi. You could also say it seperti contoh bawah. His books about relationships, which he is famous for, sell very well. Apa beza kedua-dua ayat ni adalah kedudukan for sahaja. Tadi for which, yang ni adalah which he is famous for, sell very well. So yang ni is more common. Tak formal sangatlah bunyi dia. Okay. And then we have to kat sini. The woman who I was talking to is my wife. And now we get to the part where a lot of students ask, bila kita nak guna whom? Whom ialah bila kita letak to di sebelum who. The woman who I was talking to is my wife. The woman to whom, you cannot say to who, you have to say to whom I was talking is my wife, and this is very formal. So yang ni kalau biasa kita berbual biasa-biasa kita akan guna ayat ni je. Tapi kalau to whom ni, for which ni biasanya lebih kepada bila kita baca buku ke apa ke, ataupun kita nak menulis sesuatu yang formal, kita akan gunakan seperti inilah, for which, to whom. Alright, and those are, I think that's enough explanation, but let's take a look at number 2. Okay, number 2. And this exercise should show you the difference between defining and non-defining relative clause. Okay, read the sentences and underline the relative clause. Which sentence means that the speaker has more than one brother, and that the one who has written a book lives in Scotland, and one only has one brother, and that he has written a book and lives in Scotland. Okay, if that sounds confusing to you, pardon me, I will try to explain a bit better. So tengok ayat ni. Dua-dua ni mana relative clause dia? My brother who has written a book on personal relationships live in Scotland, and B, my brother who has written a book on personal relationships lives in Scotland. Relative clause dia yang pertama, yang A, yang ni kan, has written a book on personal relationship, and B is samalah. Apa perbezaan kedua-dua ni? Adalah comma, right? This one has a comma, the other one does not. So salah satu ni, it says that the writer, the speaker, orang yang cakap ayat ni lah, my brother, maknanya abang dia. Satu ni, dia ada seorang sahaja abang, dan abang dia tu tulis buku dan duduk di Scotland. Satu lagi, dia ada ramai abang, tapi seorang abang dia tulis buku dan duduk di Scotland. So which one is which? So again, if that sounds confusing, I know it is confusing. I was confused too initially when I was reading it on my own. So I don't blame you if you get lost somewhere. Okay. My brother who has written a book. So we are looking at A here. So ini ada comma. So yang ni A, it shows that the speaker ada seorang sahaja abang. My brother, abang saya, and then ni maklumat tambahan tentang abang dia, who has written a book on personal relationship, lives in Scotland. Whereas this one, my brother who has written a book, abang saya, abang yang mana? Abang yang tulis buku. Sebab bila kita nak tanya abang yang mana, maksudnya dia ada ramai abang lah. So specifically abang dia yang tulis buku. So as you can see here, kita tambah koma saja, tambah 2 koma dalam ayat tu boleh memberi implikasi yang berbeza pada ayat tu. So comma, punctuation, tanda baca dalam bahasa Inggeris is very important because it can change the meaning of the sentence. Alright, so that is a 15-minute explanation on relative clauses. Okay, so 15 minutes of me explaining about relative clauses. And grammar, if you find it hard, it's understandably so. I can understand why you think grammar is hard. I think that the best way for people to learn grammar is not by studying the notes, although that is also part of learning. The best way, in my opinion, to learn grammar is to just expose yourself, mendedahkan diri kamu, exposing yourself to the language by reading, by listening to a lot of English, watching English movies. You can just pick up the grammar eventually, sedikit sebanyak lah. But when you learn the grammar, it becomes clearer. Okay? If you do have any further questions, you can just contact me and ask. Okay, so now we are going to look at the exercise down below. Learning about relationships. Circle the correct answer. So what I need you to do is to write this entire thing, keseluruhan semua sekali ni, write it in your book and choose the correct answer. So I'm going to give you some time to do this, then hit the pause button and come back to check the answers. Now hit the pause button. Okay, I can finally put my face on here. Sebab tadi ada banyak sangat teks tak muat nak isi. Okay, so let's try to do this together. I hope you have finished and you're ready to check your answer. Please make sure that you have, as usual, a red pen to check your answers. Whew, my throat is very dry right now. The book Impression Management, which is, or that is about the different relationship. The answer is which is about the different relationship between people. Okay, so kenapa kita kena gunakan which? Kita tak boleh guna that sebabnya I told you before, bila kita ada yang comma ni tadi kan, you cannot use that, kena gunakan which is about the different relationships between people. Was written by Barry R. Schlenker kot, who is an American professor. Who ke whom? Okay, we know that kalau nak guna whom, kita kena ada to. So the answer is who. The main reason, so why Schlenker wrote the book was because he felt that people should have more information about relationships. The main idea of the book boleh who ke? It's not a person, right? So which argues that people try to control how others see them in almost every social relationship, was not particularly popular. Not particularly, ini tidak begitu. Not particularly popular in 1980. This is time, so when the book was first published. However, namun, in the universities and colleges, place where the book was taught, there were many students that felt that Schlenker's thoughts on relationships were important ones that people should learn about and discuss. Much of the support where the book received, ataupun tak ada apa-apa, no, tak perlu letak apa-apa kat sini, kosong. Much of the support the book received, sepatutnya ada apa kat sini kalau kosong? Ada that. Much of the support that the book received, tapi kita boleh buang that. Tadi kan kita kata ada 4 relative clause yang kita boleh omit, boleh tinggalkan. Where the book received, for which Schlenker was very thankful, came from his students. He was also very thankful to his wife, parents, and colleagues, whose advice and encouragement helped him greatly. Encouragement is sokongan. At the beginning of the book, Schlenker says that it was these people and these relationships which made the production of impression management possible. So that's 12. Please write down how many out of 12 you managed to answer correctly. Oh, the circle is not coming up. Okay. Oops. Alright, there you go. Okay, and that will be all. It's not a lot for the lesson. It's just one exercise, but there sure are a lot of notes there that you need to understand. So hopefully you have learned something useful in today's lesson, and as usual, I will send you a link to submit your exercise later. So thank you very much for joining this lesson today, and assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.